And there we go. So welcome everyone to tonight's session, in which we are going to, I will be discussing the POE in quite a bit of detail, but this is not our official POE discussion slot. That will take place on the 23rd of October. I've just had quite a few students asking about the POE so that they can get their ducks in a row basically and get started with it. I do understand some of you that's doing your PGCE in 1 year have got a lot of assessments that will be due soon. So let's get started and hopefully this will help you. A big welcome from my side to our two lecturers, Bronwyn and Lucia, that is present in our session. I am very glad to have you with. As I stated to my students that are in my group, you are really blessed in that you've got the top people when it comes to creating the module is in your sessions. So the advantage to that is that we could really jump in and help and answer questions as we go along. So let's just start off with some of the basics on how this is going to work. So below is a comprehensive guide to help you and your PGCE, to help you and PGCE students navigate the portfolio of evidence for that. So basically what I do is I give you an overall POE structure with some important notes. And then I also give you a step-by-step breakdown. When I'm finished with this, I will also share with you, or not share with you, I will share my screen and show you the template that I have created. The other lecturers do have it. It's a Word document that you can then just use to update what it is that you need to do. So let's go through the overall POE structure and just some notes of why you need to do what. So please take note, there are 3 activities. As you can see, the first activity is 20 marks. The other 2 are 40 marks each. So together they give you 100 marks. And this is 90% of your final mark. You have got the remaining 10% is your ICE tasks. You all should know what your ICE tasks are and which ones it is that you are supposed to be doing. I've asked my students to please have mine all done by, I think, the end of this weekend, preferably by Friday evening, so that on Sunday I can actually compile a list to share. I'm also pretty new to our system, ARC. In the past, we used VC Learn, which I knew very well. I'm still learning what's going on with the new system. So yes, marking tasks are not as easy or as straightforward as I would like to have it, but please take note your ICE tasks are due very, very soon. So let's go look at what are submission and referencing requirements. So although I'm speaking about INCL, those of you that are doing any of your other modules except your teaching experience, your TESF module is not part of it. But if you're doing PRET, or I think PRET and then maybe some of your didactics, the same principle applies for that. So take note, in an assignment, not more than 10% should be direct quotes. So a lot of students sort of, especially because we are now checking for AI percentages and things like that, they tend to use direct quotes and then say, but the direct quotes are from the texts. Please take note, and it's not just the IIE, it's I would go as far as to say it's a universal concept of all tertiary institutions. Not more than 10% of what you write should be a direct quote. So depending on the length of your direct quotes, it boils down to probably 1 direct quote on a typed page. You should not have more than that. Make sure that you provide in-text citations and a reference list at the end. Please take note, we now use Harvard Anglia for those of you that were with us previously. Make sure that you get your referencing correctly. And just to stop and pause on it. So when you make an academic claim, when you basically say something such as children with autism tend to wada, 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 I'm going to want to know from you, where did you read about that? Where did you find out that children with autism would do A, B, and C? So when you make that type of claims, you should support it with a relevant source. So let's quickly go through what are the requirements of a relevant source. Well, first of all, ideally, you should be making use of Google Scholar. If you make use of normal Google, which can sometimes provide some nice sources, the article that you are referencing, the author's surname must be on it and the year of publication must be clear. Remember in your reference list to also provide the link to that specific source, because when we mark your work, we do have to check for valid links. I know we don't want to think about it, but we do know that when we use AI, and trust me, I use AI extensively in the work that I do, it comes up with rubbish references. It sometimes make them up. Masego, you've got a question. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Hello.
Hello.
I would like to know what is the correct way to reference our module reader.
Okay, I will do it for you in the chat. The full reference you'll find in the guide, but it will be referenced like this: the IIE, 2021. It was published for the first time. So that would be your
Okay,
in-text
thank you.
referencing. Okay. And
Okay,
then
thank you.
no problem. And in the reference list, just go check in the booklet. It tells you how to reference the various module readers. So that would help. Very good question to ask. So for consistency in referencing, consistency in referencing is essential. So for every site that you have referenced in your text, you must have a corresponding source in your list. So it's the fancy word that we use is congruency, meaning if you used 10 sources in your texts, there should be 10 sources in your reference list. Not 50 sources in the list, but only 10 in the text that you've raised. So let me just quickly clarify something else there. I know this is not a reference list, but it helps to get this just because everybody was on teaching prac, so our brains are not quite back onto track here. So some universities make use of what we call a bibliography. So there's a massive difference between a bibliography and a reference list. So a bibliography contains a list of all the sources that you read. You might not have referenced them, but you read it. So there you would have the opportunity to maybe have 50 sources listed, but you only used 10 in your sources. So within the IIE, we do not do that. And when it comes to most postgraduate studies, we don't necessarily do that. We make use of a reference list, meaning that every single source that has been used in in-text referencing will then be in my reference list. There won't be more or less. The two will make sense. Next, we're going to go through our rubrics. So as far as I know, let me just quickly check. I don't actually show you the rubrics in today's session. You all have got access to the document. Your rubric is kind of like a checklist for you. So each activity does have a rubric, and what is in the rubric would be the following. It gives you the clarity and the depth of the content that is required. We use peer-reviewed sources. You need to have practical application, the relevance of the teaching support and so forth, and then quality of writing and academic conventions. That is all addressed in your rubrics. So if you typically get like a 50, 60%, go look at the column that's got the 50, 60%. I'll make a point for in our next session to have the rubrics present so I can just demonstrate it better for you. The rubric actually very clearly tells you what it is that you need to do. In fact, a tip that I could give you for those of you that do make use of AI, not to write your tasks, but to help you, is once you have completed your POE, upload it as well as the PDF document or the actual POE document and ask AI to check whether you have provided all the necessary information. And it will most likely focus on the rubrics and tell you these are the elements that you need to add to your work. So a very positive look on it to make it easier to figure out what it is that you need to do. So please make sure that you align your answers with the rubric descriptors. Don't go off on a tangent which totally does not address whatever that specific aspect all deals with. Also, please make sure that you make use of academic language. For those of you that are not English home language speakers, I am one of those. You can keep it simple. It doesn't mean you have to use technical language, but we cannot use casual language. So if you struggle with certain terms that you find difficult, where possible, give a short definition. If you're going to be talking about a child with ASD, maybe first give me a short definition of what is ASD. What type of symptoms or characteristics do you see where it is? And that tends to help our non-English speaking learners, or in your case, students, quite a lot when they just help. It just helps you to get your thought processes in line with what you are trying to discuss. So again, with the citing policy documents, so in inclusive education, you will often need to reference Education White Paper 6, as well as the SIA's policy and sometimes other government documents, such as your SASA document, your South African Schools Act, also deals with your inclusive aspects. So please make sure that you reference the Department of Education correctly. Take note, it is never, let me put it in the chat. So if you are, I can't remember what year, I think White Paper 6 is 2001. So it will be DBE, not the DBE, just DBE, comma, I think it's 2001, I'm not sure. Go check for yourself to make sure. That is how you would reference it. You do not reference it as DOE. So just a quick recap on what's the difference between them. So the DOE used to be, during apartheid times, the Department of Education. We no longer talk about the Department of Education. We talk about two legs of the department. The one is the Department of Higher Education and Training, the dudes in charge of all our varsity things, and then the Department of Basic Education and not in training, just basic education, and they cover from grade R to grade 12. So make sure that you make use of DBE, not DOE. Now we're going to move on to our various activities, and we're going to go through a step-by-step breakdown of what they all require of you. So activity 1 is navigating diversity. You are going to create a support booklet. It is worth 20 marks. So the overview is you are going to create a short booklet that addresses 4 types of diversity in the South African high school context. So I'm not stipulating for you which ones they must be. You can pick up. The goal is to help teachers understand these diversities and offer them practical strategies to support learners. So who are you creating the booklet for? You're creating it for other teachers. You are going to create 4 types of diversities that you are going to address in this. There's a lot more, but you are limited to 4. So there are very specific requirements in the instructions. And thank you to Lucia, that was very explicit in the instructions that there's no wondering what is it that I need to do. So you need to create a cover page. Now this booklet can be done for those of you that's creative. You could do it on a platform such as Canva. Those of us that's not that into technology that much, you could also just do a normal Word document, but you must have a cover page. And on your cover page, it's not like the same as a cover page for your POE. This is a cover page for activity 1, which will be called Supporting Diversity in High School Classrooms. So that's the title of this booklet that you are creating. You can pick any image that you like. You are welcome to get AI to create it for you if you want to. You're welcome to use any picture on the internet. Just make sure to reference it. So an image that represents or symbolizes diversity for you, whatever you might regard it as. You don't get a mark for how good your picture is, but you get a mark for actually following the instructions. So you've got 4 sections, and what we've done here is we've included them for you over here. These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You've got 6 options that we've given you. You can choose the 4 that you like the most, that speaks most to you, however you want to look at it. So your options would be language. Remember, language is a massive barrier in many schools where we've got children learning, let's say for argument's sake, in an English medium school, so their language of learning and teaching might be English, but the children are not actually English home language speakers. You are high school, so you tend to also deal with very complex words. If I think like a subject like maths, where your maths is a language on its own, and you are teaching it via English, and the child's struggling with English. So language could be a barrier. Socioeconomic background, that speaks for itself. Culture, in the sense that we've got various cultures. Think of your teaching school where you were at. We had different cultures. Most schools would have had different cultures. How would that then impact what it is that's happening? Our learning styles, you could focus on the different learning styles. Please take note, we don't just expect you to stick to the visual, auditory. If you go look at Howard Gardner, he addresses, they keep on changing it. It used to be 8, it's now 9 different learning styles. You could focus on that as well, but it's not so much on the many different styles, but more so on the fact that there is diversity in learning styles in the classroom. Therefore, how would you as a teacher accommodate all of these different styles? Then we also have disabilities. So these they tend to refer to your physical and your neurological barriers that we have. And the last one, a big one, is our family dynamics. So statistics tell us only about 40% of our children have got a male role model in their lives. So that's pretty scary. So if you were fortunate to be at a school where, especially our private schools, where parents are still together, or at least a child has got a male role model in their lives, that's very different to those students that might have been in an under-resourced school, where you would definitely have experienced the impact of family dynamics. So you need to pick any 4 of these and explain why they are relevant in the South African high school. So as I mentioned them, I try to explain the relevancy to you. These can also be found in your reader. Obviously, you are expected to do other research on these aspects then as well. So what is it that you need to do? For each one of the 4 that you have picked, you need to describe, you've got to give a description of it. So briefly define and explain its importance. For argument's sake, if it's language, define what is meant, not with the word language. We don't want the dictionary definition of it. We want to know the school-related definition to it. So you need to use, please take note, at least two peer-reviewed references for each type that you can have. For example, reference a journal article on second language acquisition for language diversity. Sometimes the same peer-reviewed source could be used for more than one diversity, but in the rubric, when we mark it, we have to look for at least 2 peer-reviewed articles, meaning not your reader, not the IIE, as I've just posted in the group for Masego.
Something like this, because how can you kill me like this?
Okay, I think we have got, let me just mute everybody. There we go. So please make sure that you get that. So an example of this would be, oh, you've got to also, once you've given the description of it, you're going to give a practical example of it. So give a classroom-based scenario that shows how this type of diversity might appear. So by now, you guys have all done SFTL, and you should understand Bloom's. So in Bloom's, we've got the different levels. The top level is application. When you can provide us with an example of what this looks like in the classroom, you are busy with application, which is the top level of Bloom's, and that's exactly what we want. Your example, remember, who are you creating this booklet for? You are creating it for other teachers. So by creating or by providing a practical example, you make it easier for them to also follow what on earth it is that you are trying to explain. So then you've got to provide a strategy, guys, and we're talking about a teaching strategy, not just a normal strategy. So provide one practical strategy for teachers to use in the classroom. For example, for language diversity, you might say something such as pair learners who speak the same home language or use simple English instructions along with visual aids. There are two strategies that I have used. These strategies could come from your SFTL book. It could also come from any of the other available sources on the internet. So let's recap. You are going to be doing, let me number them here. So this is number 1, this is number 2, and this is number 3. So you're going to do all of these times 4. So for each one of your diversities that you've chosen, you are going to be doing this discussion. I hope that is clear. So next, you also have to outline the 3 levels of support. So each one of those diversities, you will have to go and list these 3. So the first one we would have is classroom-based support. And the second one is the school-based support. Thirdly is the district-based support. So for each diversity type, briefly describe how these levels can help. For instance, under school-based support, the school-based support team, or the SBST as we call it, could coordinate after-school language clubs. So we're sticking with language as a basis. Let's quickly give some examples. So what type of classroom-based support would I give? Please take note, don't confuse classroom support with strategy. Strategy is what you're going to do to teach a specific skill and something that you're going to implement to work. When I'm talking about support, that would be the provision of maybe a word list if it's a language barrier, helping the student when you are discussing something, have like a signal indicating thumbs up, do they understand what you're saying? Any type of support that you're going to be giving in the classroom over and above your teaching strategy. Your school-based support, as the example shows there, where you could have extra lessons in the afternoon for children that struggle. So you could have language clubs or even homework clubs to help them expand or improve their language, specifically English academic language. For your district-based support, so there where you would go and say something such as, are you connecting with other schools in your area, in your district, to come up with support strategies that could help everybody? So by doing collaboration with other schools, you also strengthen your understanding of a diversity. So that is an example of an outline of the district-based support. So please take note then, at the end of the booklet, you will have to give a list of all your sources that you've used. So you need to have, let me use the laser, you need to have at least 8 references because we are expecting you to have 2 per style. You've got to follow Harvard Anglia. Please take note, documents such as White Paper 6, the South African Schools Act do not count as peer-reviewed reference sources. They are regarded as secondary sources. You are welcome to use that, but on top of that, you still need to make use of peer-reviewed sources. So where do I find those? The easiest would be to find them on not Google Classroom, Google Scholar. When you search there, you know everything in Google Scholar is peer-reviewed. Jacqueline, you've got a question.
I just wanted to ask, with that peer review articles, is that for that whole section on each diversity, or does it have to be just for the explanation?
No, it's for the whole diversity that you're
Okay.
discussing. So within your, if we can go back to this one, which one was it say? No, it didn't tell you there, where you have to have two references. Oh, here we go. Yeah, we tell you've got to have two references, not just for the description. I've put
Yes,
it here for
okay.
the description,
But it can be
would,
anything. Okay.
yes,
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Inevitably, when you discuss the rest of it, you would have that. Yolandi, you've got a question.
Hi, yes, just a quick question. So do you suggest that we, as an example, let's say I choose language and culture, that I discuss language. So I do the description, the practical examples, the strategy, as well as the support, and then I go over to, let's say, culture?
Yes,
Or should we?
that is how,
Okay,
no, that is how you must do it. You've got to
okay,
choose one and discuss all of it. Then
all
number
of it.
2 and all of it. I will show you the template
Okay.
just now.
Thank you.
So I will most probably, if I look at the time, not get through all the activities. So at least if I can do 1 and 2 in detail, then we can do 3 in our next session. Okay, so that takes then care of everything. So let's check what will be the marking focus. So basically, these bullets relate to the instructions in the rubric. So I'm going to give, or your lecturer, whoever's marking, will give a mark for clarity and depth of diversity discussions, the relevance and the detail of your examples, feasibility of strategies. Are you choosing a strategy that's actually doable, or are you choosing something that is like totally removed from the South African sphere, such as linking up with schools overseas to make choices? Matthew, I'll be with you now. I just want to go through the list and you can talk. You also need to do quality of visual presentation, because this is a booklet. So it does have to look like a booklet. That is why I say our people that love Canva, you are welcome to go crazy and make it pretty. For those of us that are not that creative by nature, just have some color and things like that, you can actually in Word for Windows create a booklet. If you're not sure how to, just use normal Google and search how to create a booklet in Word for Windows, and it will actually describe it, and it's not that tricky to do at all. And then lastly, your academic writing style and proper referencing will also get a mark. Matthew, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to find out what examples of strategies that are not feasible. Usually one would say it would be financial, schools being held back financially, but what are other strategies? What are examples of strategies that would not be feasible? Because in my mind, it might be feasible, but into the lecture, it might not be.
Okay, something such as provide every child in the class with an iPad. The school is going to provide iPads for everybody, which is going to make it easier for them all to work. Some schools have the option, but they don't provide the children with it. Or making sense of, say, another strategy could be, let's stick to the language barrier one. Lucia, I see, has got a hand up, so she can talk to us just now. Another option would be to use a translation tool during class time. So, I mean, I see now the latest, I think it's glasses that are now, if you wear the glasses, it will translate in real time into your ear whatever is being said. I mean, that's unrealistic to expect that in the class. Lucia, do you want to answer, please?
Hi, Joe. Yes, I just wanted to add something that I always tell my students as well, that as long as you can advocate for your reason, if you are able to explain why you think that this is a feasible strategy and it makes sense, then I won't necessarily mark you down. So if it is just as an example, a low resource school, but you are able to explain that you will get a donation, or you will get a high resource school to donate some of their old iPads, and they can share in groups using an iPad. It makes sense. So as long as you just explain why you think that that is a feasible strategy, then I think yeah, it should be fine. But obviously it can't be something that's very far-fetched, especially within the South African context. Yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Okay. So, sorry, I see Lucia, have you been answering questions? Because I was starting to answer them too, so I'm great. Okay, so Lucia has answered them. Okay, so students, I hope that helps you to understand. So someone asked about page numbers. There is no limit to what it is. Obviously, it's a booklet. It's not supposed to be massive. You can use bullets, but not too many. I mean, ultimately, this is a booklet for teachers to help them to understand that specific thing. So if I had to take my husband and I say to him, come and read these bullets and tell me what's going on, he's going to say to me, this doesn't make sense to him because he does not speak this. He's a doctor. He's not into this stuff. So make sure that your booklet is user-friendly. I think ultimately that would be a good point to state. Make sure that it is user-friendly so that it is easy to understand. Okay, I am going to stop sharing now, and I want to take you into, let me just first open it so that I don't talk nonsense. I want to open the template that I created, and then hopefully when we go through it that way, it will make sense to you. Now, where is this template? So let's just open it up. Sorry, takes a bit of time. Let me talk you through it, and then hopefully that will help you to understand. If need be, if students really are keen to have the full description, I can go ahead and also create for us a video that we can share. Claudia, I'll answer your question now. So this is what your template looks like. Okay, so you can actually go and delete this red stuff. You don't have to keep it here, but this is typically what a cover of a POE should look like. If you click on this, all the headings have been made with word headings. Okay, so if you click on this and you say update, always say update entire table when you are done, and it's going to fix up all your bits and pieces here. So you'll be able to see them straight off as what they are over here. So you can simply just put your document in here. You do not have to use this on these documents. If you are creating it through Canva or something like that, you are welcome to do this. I just created it here so that people understand what is expected. So you start off with a cover page and a picture of some sort. Then, yeah, I tell you, introduction. First explain why are we writing, what is the purpose of this booklet? So that should be about 1 to 2 pages long, or 1 to 2 lines, sorry, not pages. You could also state how it's organized in that there's 4 diversities. And then you start off with diversity 1, you describe it, you give the classroom example, a practical strategy that teachers could use, and then the 3 levels of support. Then you go on the next. So if we just look at it like it's over here. So let's say I'm a language teacher by training, okay? And now I need to go, heaven forbid, go teach grade 8 maths. I have got no idea what it's like in a maths classroom. So by you explaining to me, listen, in maths, children tend to have a number sense issue. They don't understand numbers the way they are supposed to. So here is an example of what it's going to look like in the classroom. If you see a child displaying these characteristics, you can know that's what's going on. So that is my example. What practical strategy can I use to fix or to help? We can't fix problems, but we can support problems. And then what type of support do we expect you to have in the classroom, in the school, and in the district? And you would do exactly the same for number 2, number 3, and number 4. And then at the end of it, you need to, on a separate page, have a reference list. It does not have to be in the template. You could also use the fancy ones. If you want to, you can actually remove, for those of you that maybe wants to use something such as Canva and create a booklet on its own, you can remove activity 1 from the template and basically upload 2 documents. When you submit your POE, your little booklet that you've made fancy on some other platform, and then the POE that contains activity 2 and 3 and so forth. So that's kind of like where we want to go through. Okay, so let's get back to the actual slides so that we can at least touch on activity 2, just because I think it would be helpful for those of you that are keen to move ahead with it. We've only got 20 minutes left, but that discussion will be helpful as it is. I see I had a hand raised, but it looks like the hand has been put down. Okay, so let's move on to activity activity 2. So here starts activity 2. So activity 2 is split into a part A and a part B, each one worth 20 marks. So you will use the case study of Tandu. And I'm not going to read the case study to you because I tend to give answers away. So that's not the way to do it. So you will be reading a case study on Tandu. And based on that, you are going to complete the modified SNA1 document. Excuse me. And when you're finished with that, you will then create the individualized support team. Again, the template that I just used, that I showed for you guys, actually have all the little blocks and stuff in it. You can literally just go and type in your answers to make it easy to understand what's going on. So let's get started. For part A, you are going to complete the modified SNA1 form. It's in the template. So if you're not using the template, make sure you copy and paste that section at least so that you know you've got everything that you need to have. So the first point would be you need to read the case study carefully. So Tandu faces, I'm telling you over here, there are academic, socioeconomic, and language challenges. Therefore, we know there are 3 challenges that Tandu is facing. So understand her background, her strengths, and her needs. That's typically what goes into the SNA1 form. So let's see. Once you have identified this, you can then go for it. So some people like to work with printed paper. So print your case study and make notes on it. Alternatively, copy and paste it and write in different colors, whatever floats your boat. You need to make sense of the case study. Tabella is asking a very relevant question. Should you use the same reference list at the end of the whole POE? No. The one that's right at the end is specifically aimed at activity 2 and 3, unless you are doing your activity 1 within the template, then you are welcome to use it also at the end. When we do reference list at the end of the POE, do we okay, same question was asked. Okay, so how do I go about filling out the SNA1 form? So the first section deals with the areas of concern. So describe your concern about the learner. Sorry, so you've read the case study and now you're telling me as a teacher, this is what I am concerned about. Next one, how you became aware of it. Did you observe it? Did you see it in the reports? Whatever the case might be. Sometimes the most logical one is that we observed it or we saw that there's a problem or another teacher told me about it, then it will be in the report. How does all these concerns, how do all the concerns that you've seen affect learning and development? With other words, what impact do these observations have on her learning and the development within your subject? And then, is there a diagnosed disability? So read the case study. Do we say the child has got ADHD, epilepsy, whatever? go look at what does it say there. That takes care of section 1. So section 1 is all about getting the overall picture. Now we go into section 2, which deals with the strengths and needs. So for every single thing, we have got strengths and we have got needs. So in communication, if she's got a language barrier, she might speak English quite okay, but her writing might not be that good. So what are the strengths? She actually understands most of the words properly. Her need would be writing. Tell me learning. Does she snap things fast? Does she struggle? It's all in the case study. Behavior and social competence, health, wellness, and personal care, classroom and school, and lastly, family, home, and in the community. So what do we know about these things when we read the case study? So our strengths would be things such as good participation in group work. Needs could be things such as irregular attendance. And then support needs could be that she needs additional tutoring. I've just made up some examples here. So students want to know from their lecturers, how many aspects do I need to list under each of these? Well, you've got to read the case study and make sense of the case study. If you can pick up 2 communication issues, then that's what you raise. Often, one student will find even more than what I could pick up when I read it. As long as it's there and it's part of the case study, don't make up stuff. It has to be actually in the case study. You don't have to defend it or anything. And please take note, we also don't do references in this section. This is purely based on what it is that you've written. You are not explaining details to me here. You are not supporting, while the case study says this, and you don't have to reference the case study. Not within an SNA1 form. Is that the question that you had? Okay, I see I've got 2 people that have got their hands raised. Yolandi, go first.
I just want to find out. So, as an example, let's say, I mean, I haven't read the case study in such detail yet, but let's say there is no health, wellness, and personal care needs that I can see. Should I then just simply state something like no needs, or, I mean,
or you would just
yeah.
state no health concerns in case study.
Okay,
Like
perfect. Thank you.
Okay, pleasure. Matthew?
You. I'm looking at the rubric for activity 2A, and it specifically requests references, research-based interventions, and academic writing and structure. To get 5 marks, you need comprehensive research-backed interventions, and then references are properly formatted and enhance the analysis.
Okay, but we're not finished yet with it. This stuff over here was just based on that. Now comes.
All right, thank you.
There comes the next section. Okay, so in this section, section A and, not A and B, 1 and 2 of the SNA1 form, you should not be using references. Am I correct, Lucia? Because this is based on the case study. Okay, she's nodding her head, so yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Sorry.
hear you.
Yes, unless they do, quote or reference, then of course, but for the most part, if you take it from the actual case study, then no.
Yes. Matthew, your hand's up again.
Oh, sorry, I left it up.
Okay, no problem. So now we go on to the section that Matthew was talking about now is in the rubric. So if we go look at it over here, draw from relevant sources. This is now where we get into referencing. So barriers to learning can stem from socioeconomic issues, language difficulties, or family responsibilities. So use the SIAS policy and definitions that's needed in there. So check the rubric. Like I said, I'm sorry I didn't have the rubric in today's ones. I'll make sure that they're in the slides and come back to you. But generally, it is when you, okay, let's go back to what it is that you need to do. A strength is something that is there in the case study. So that's the easy way to look at it. Your strengths you would get from the case study. The needs you would probably do from the case study as well as from a reference source of some sort. The support needed, this is referenced. Because how do you know if I'm saying to you a child, for argument's sake, is struggling with irregular attendance? Okay, so that is one of the needs that they have. What's the impact of irregular attendance on the child's development? Because remember, that is what you don't have to do it here in great detail. You'll see just now when we go into section B, part B, where you create the support plan. That is where you're going to use all of the information that you've put together over here is going to be used within that document. Okay, so I don't have the actual document in front of me, so I'll go check the rubrics for now, though. Just go ahead and fill the things in. By our next session, we will definitely have that all sorted out. So lastly, this is the last section I'm going to be able to cover tonight, would then be part B. This is now the creation of a support plan, otherwise known as an ISP. So here you're going to identify the main areas of concern. So basically, you're going to provide a summary of what you did in part A. So such as inconsistent attendance, language barriers, socioeconomic constraints, whatever it is. Here you're going to write your main areas of concern. Then you're going to outline the barriers. And here you have to reference. Because academically, what is it and why is it a barrier? Socioeconomic, what is the barrier? Emotional and so forth. Go through the whole thing. Basically, if I don't want to make you dizzy, all of these things that you've had over here, what are the concerns that you are going to raise? So this is the main concern. And then underneath that, basically, think of this as nearly kind of like your sub-concerns. So these are the barriers that are causing, that for you are causing whatever your main concerns are. You then, after you have discussed the main concerns, you're now going to develop appropriate strategies. So what would you do for academic needs, for social, emotional, and for physical or any of the other aspects? So for academic, you could say something, there's going to be after-school tutoring, you're going to simplify English reading materials, bilingual dictionaries, whatever the case might be there. And for social and emotional needs, you could encourage leadership and so forth, whatever it is, based on what it is that you've picked up from the case study. You need to ensure, so number 4 is not a subheading, align it with it. Yeah, I'm saying to you, your individual support plan should reflect the supports that you have identified in your SNA. That is the function of the SNA. The SNA is like a mind map of what I'm sitting with, and now you're going to write the essay on how to help the child. So please make sure for this section that you need to check the rubric. So your goals must be clear and realistic, and it must be very specific. Your strategies should be practical and well explained. So I'm not going to go through task 3 with it. Since I have got a few minutes left, I'm going to take you guys back into the template. So here then is part B. Let me make it bigger so it's one screen. So yes, start your activity 2. I have named it. You're going to put the child's name in here. You're going to put the school's name in here. Then I'm explaining to you what it is. To be completed by the teacher. You guys don't change anything here. This is standard. It has to be there because it's a document. So yeah, you're now going to go and type whatever it is that you've decided would be the problem. Oopsie. And you would do the same with how did you become aware of this? This thing can expand, guys. There's no limit to it. So it will just simply go over the pages as you type more and more aspects in there. Again, please don't ask us how many things you need to write. It's going to depend on you as a person. Some people summarize in many lines, and some people can make it more concise. But here you're going to describe the concern. How did you become aware of it? And how is this observation currently affecting the learner's learning and development? So describe it. If you are unsure, go and look up. There are stacks of examples of filled in SNA forms on the internet. Go look at one of those and see how they did it, and then just use the same strategy for our specific case study. Then you've got over here, any disabilities, diagnoses, whatever. So please put it in here. And now here you're going to write the strengths, what are their needs or the risk factors, and then the support that would be needed. You're going to do it for communication, learning, behavior, health, classroom. So for our student that asked earlier, let's say you pick no health issues. There will then be strengths. The strength is that the child, the case study does not list any health issues. So that would be a strength. Therefore, there would be no needs and no support would be needed for it. So that's just to answer that one. Then this is the big one. So this is your classroom and school. So what factors in the classroom and the school? And it tells you that the SNA document is so helpful in that it tells you what is it in the kids' school environment. Let's take something that's easier. So with regards to health, do they look healthy? Are they clean? Are they well fed? Do they look in our teenage phases? Are they sleepy? Things like that you would be able to look at. Then the home and family. Do we know what's the family structure? Divorced parents, single parenthood, no parents, living with grandparents. What is the situation there? Again, this is not me or Lucia that typed this out. This actually comes from the official SNA1 document. So that is your part A, and then part B is your individual support plan. This is typically what goes in a support plan. Okay, very much in line with what was in the SNA1. You can, again, these things can expand over the page and so forth, but it gives you a good indication of what it is. It doesn't mean because there are three rows that you've got to give me three options. If you see there isn't one, you simply go there and you cut it so that it's not there. You just write how many. If you feel there's more than that, you just go to the end and you press enter and it's going to create another one for you, just so that you can see that that's how it works. And that is your support plan. So that's what all goes in. These columns end up being quite long, but it addresses it nicely. And then next time we will go through the lesson plan. And that's it. So I'm going to call it a day for now. At least you have got activity 1 and 2 to work through. And you can look through the lesson plan. It's not that complicated, but the official description of it will be in our next session on the 23rd. I'll also make sure to include the rubrics in the slides. So I'll be using the same slides. I'll just include the rubrics to it to make sure I answer Matthew's question in detail. At the moment, I'm going on what I remember. I might be wrong. Ryan, you've got your hand up.
You probably said it already, but will you be uploading this recording?
Yes, I will upload the recording. If you are not one of my students, I will upload it onto YouTube, and I will share that link with all the lecturers that will then share it with their groups to make sure everybody gets the recording.
Great. Thank you so much.
No problem. Any other questions from anyone?
I just want to ask about the I stuff. Do we have to include references for them?
Pardon, I didn't hear your question.
For the ICE tasks, do we have to include references? Yeah.
That's going to depend from lecturer to lecturer. So I tend to not expect references in my ICE tasks, but other lecturers can insist on it.
Okay,
so I see Lucia is nodding her head. So I'm sure she's okay with it. Bronwyn is on the session, but I know she's not feeling very well at the moment. So let's not push her for it. I suggest you ask your lecturer, but to my understanding, for my module, it's not needed. Okay, so that's TR sorted out. Aiden, your hand was next.
Yes, hello, ma'am. Just with reference to activity 1, I see it's basically only 5 marks per description. So does that mean like our referencing and our descriptions need to be long, or they just need to be concise to the point and you get 1 mark for doing that?
No, it must be concise because you're busy with a booklet. So in booklets, we don't have very fancy long ones like you would have in a written document like you guys did for FOED. You won't go into such great length because you're basically creating a booklet for other people and just supporting it with it is. And then obviously your reference list at the end, that can be long, but I would stick to 2 references per section that was in there. That should be more than enough. You don't need to go much over it. If you obviously talk about white paper 6 and so forth, you do need to reference those as well, but you are busy talking to other teachers. You don't need to go into massive discussions on those elements. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Someone else also had a hand up. Justin? Or was Justin?
Ma'am, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks, and you?
I'm fine, thanks, and you? I'm very well, thank you. I'm just double checking on those. I think it's ICE Task 2 and ICE Task 4. If you go to assessments on the ARC page, it shows you the links there, which takes you to the quiz. But once you've completed the quiz, the mark itself doesn't actually show up under assessments. However, if you go to class progress, it does show the marks there. So I just want to make sure that it's like that for everyone and it's not a problem.
Yes, that is one of the struggles that I've had this semester with, because this is last semester I did not use multiple choice questions. And yes, it is, like you said, in your progress, you will see it, but it does not appear on the actual thing. For us as lecturers, the mark does appear in what we call our grade book. So we do get to, or the grade center, we get to see your marks. Remember, just to recap, ICE tasks, you've only got 2 possible numbers, if you want to call it that, an award. So you either get 0 for not doing it, or you get 100 for doing it. So whether you score 8 out of 10 or 10 out of 10, the fact that you did it gives you, we fill in on the bigger system, 100, because each task is worth 2.5% of the 10%, and that's basically how we deal with it. I hope that makes sense.
Yolanda, just one question. They're asking if they have to do the online discussions that
No.
are under. No, okay, cool.
No, they don't have
Thanks.
to do it.
Okay.
Okay, I see. Yeah, thank you so much, Lucia. I see you've answered most of the questions. Yeah, so it helps when the developer, who is Lucia, is present in the session, so she can actually help us, guide us if we misunderstand something like that. So awesome, everyone. I'm going to stop the recording, and we will see you all on the 23rd of October. We will probably use the exact same link since everybody's got the link now. And then we will go through, we will start off with activity 3 and then just recap 1 and 2. Good night, everyone. Feel free to leave the session.
Thanks, everyone.